Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Voice is not audible.
Hello. Shubha madam. Rajahmundry, mute yourself. That's it. Rajahmundry, mute yourself. Okay. NRC Rajahmundry.
Ready. Started with you. ఏ పేజ్ లాగిన్ అయ్యారు చాలా వాళ్ళు అన్వేరిఫైడ్ ఉంటుంది రావట్లేదు అనుకుంటున్నారు మాట్లాడతారు
Very good afternoon to one another. I'm Dr. Vijayalakshmi, lecturer in economics, Sri Sanam Government College, Autonomous Parcel. Am I audible, sir?
మన తెలియదు
Hello. Good afternoon to one another.
యూజ్ చేయండి
Good afternoon, ladies. This is Dr. Shiva, a very warm welcome to Professor Veena Kendra, JNU Delhi, Economics Private Finance Program, organized by CCE. We invite staff to give a talk on writing a research paper for a journal. Thank you, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation and agreeing for this online session. We believe that your research experience will provide valuable insights for us. Thank you, sir. Now I invite you to start the present over the session.
So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my views on this topic. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Just you, because you just let me know if whether I'm audible or not, because I don't know. So you just look at it. So today, if you go for that, the topic that is very, very essential for all researchers. If you go for, like most of the cases, if you go for the API score that we are talking about, or your academic establishment everywhere, this is the first step that we as a researcher, we as a professor, so we need to write research paper for journals. So there are different factors for that. So remember one thing, so in this paper, so I'll try to, I hope everyone, those who are working as a professors in the university or colleges, so they have knowledge about that. But I will try my best within this 1 hour or 1 hour 30 minutes on this, that where we need to give more emphasis. So with this information, you just look at it. So I will, after this class also, I can share this PPT, so don't worry for that. So these are the sources that at least you should need to read after this lecture. And it is already, if you go for the Google Scholar, so you can download the article or the books that I have given. So you just read it. So then maybe, so if you have any clarity, so I will discuss on that. Remember one thing, I will come to this past. I will write, suppose if you go for, you want to write a research paper for journal. Okay, so first I will try to how you will write a research paper. Then I will try to cover that what is the expectation from this the editor or reviewers, what they want to publish your manuscript in their journals. And then last I try to why our most of these, if you go for, so why most of in our case, what are the common factor that most of our paper is rejected by the reviewer or by the editor. Am I audible? Am I audible, please? Anyone?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. You just please, anytime you can stop me. And if you go for, remember one thing. So I hope I am just remember one thing. So this is the general format. Most of the journal or most of the article that we are writing or most of the research paper that we are writing. So we needs to, I will discuss each by each point. I hope everyone, those who are attending this lecture, you know it. Okay, so nothing new I am telling, but I try to explain. So you just look at it. I am revising that your understanding, that what you have. So the important dimensions in a article or research paper. So you start with you just all this point, your title, your abstract, then your keywords, then your introductions, then your research and methods, then your result and discussions, then your conclusion. So broadly, if you go for, so remember one thing, the first point you needs to be clear that the slide that I am sharing, this is the general format. Most of the journal, so we should follow this pattern. Remember one thing, so one is your, if you go for the first, again I am repeating, you just look at it. So if you go for your title, your abstract, your keywords, your introductions, your review of literature, your methods, your result, your discussions, then your conclusion. So then last one is your reference. And if you go for journals, you have all this point that we need to discuss. So I hope we all know it. Okay, so I will explain. If you have any questions, please. So I understand, maybe I do not know because I'm not able to see anyone. So if you go for, so the important point that you need to be very, very clear that your title, the first, remember one thing, if you go for, so you just, the slide is changing, is it okay or not? Please let me know. The slide is changing?
It's not changing, sir.
Not changing?
Only the first slide is visible, sir.
Okay. Now you look at it. Is it changing?
Now it's changing. It's changing.
Yeah, good. So
Thank you.
yeah, so good. So now if you go for, so you just, my request is that at least you read the slide. I will, after the class, I will share the slide. Don't worry for that. So if you go for, remember one thing, your most of the cases, so your title of your research paper or your article is very, very significant. Because if you go for, so that will motivate the reader whether they will read your article or not. That is determined on the basis of the title that you have given. This is the one dimension that you need to be careful. Other dimensions, most of the, if you go for, like the concept of indexing. Suppose I am working on tribal, I am working on tribal livelihood, I am working on child labor, I am working on migrations. So all this, if you go for, so always we talk about indexing of a article and also abstract of that article, these things. So most of the cases, if you go for, so most of the reader or the reviewer first go to the title. So in that sense, so my humble request to everyone that you should prepare the title in a such a manner, you just look at it, this slide has, I hope it is changing. So should be very short, very catchy, and should be written in a certain format that will increase the reader's attention. And also, I say not so long, not so short. Okay, so the first that, because if you go for, so you should put your title in a such a manner the reader or the editor or the reviewer. So most of the cases, if you go for, if your title is very long or title is not very, very catchy, so in that sense, is not specific, very informative, very concise. So in that sense, it is very, very important that your paper will be rejected by the editor or by the reviewer. Okay, so if you go for, whenever you are sending a paper to the journal, so remember one thing, there are different stages are there. First, whatever paper you are submitting to the journals, I will come to this point, but I will try my best to explain here. So the editor, before send to the reviewer of particular journal, so the editor, so go through this, all this title, keyword, abstract, guideline, everything, whether you are following or not. If that is not there, so most of the cases you find that your article will be rejected. So what is the central theme of that? You just look at it. So if you go for, you just, I hope the slide is changing. Please, those who are, you just look at it. So most of the cases you find that.
Sir, could you make it in a presentation mode, sir? Please.
Yeah, just a minute. Because when I'm making presentation mode, now just look at it. Is it visible? Is it now, is it visible presentation mode?
It is visible, sir, but not in presentation mode, sir.
Yeah, from my side it shows in the presentation mode. That is the, I don't know, but maybe.
Thank you, sir. Please, thank you, sir.
Yeah, maybe you just listen. Maybe I will share the PPT. Don't worry for that. So remember one thing. I say the first point that whenever you are writing a paper, so always you should write that very catchy word, very short, very informative, very interesting titles, because that will motivate the reader, the reviewer, the editor to read your articles or your research paper. Otherwise, they will not go to it. So this is the general idea. So remember one thing, whenever you are writing, generally, so please just look at the slide that I have given, they are here. So most of the cases, so just never write any short form or any formula or anything in the title itself. Okay, so don't write. Or also, like if you go for the last line in the slide that is written, don't please try to avoid write a study of, a investigation of, a observations on, or studies on. You can write, no one can stop. But always remember, as a researcher, please try to avoid this word. Most of the research scholars, so they are also doing these things in class. So in that sense, so you need to be very clear that whenever you are writing the title, so these points, like any short form, the keywords, please don't write. So this is the first point that I say you need to follow. And then I hope now the title first is over. Now the abstract. Many people do not know how to write the abstract. Remember one thing, so if you go for most of the journals, so there is a guideline that you need to write abstract in 100, 150, 200, 250, or maximum 300. Okay, so from journal to journal, it varies. So remember one thing, please read the slide, whatever they are written, you just read it. Okay, so I'm just explaining my own experience on that. So remember one thing, so when you write the abstract, so you remember one thing, your so abstract is the summary or short of your research work or research paper. So if you go for, so that means your abstract should, if you go for 300 words, remember one thing, in your abstract, you will find, you just look at it, so you will find all the point that I hope this is visible and this is changing. That means in your abstract, your introduction, your objective, your methodology, your findings, your suggestions should be written in clearly in your abstract. You just look at the slide, whatever written there. If you have any questions, please just write down. You will ask me, you stop me, ask me. So remember one thing. So always, because most of the cases, we as a reader, whether we will read your article or not, so that is determined by the most of the cases by the abstract. Anyone is asking any questions, please? Okay. So remember one thing. So when you are writing, I'm just read the slide. I'm giving one example. Suppose if you go for what I say, so you need to write one line or two line introduction, one line, two line, your objective, one or two line, your methodology. That means I will explain. Huh? Then your one or two line, your findings, and one or two lines that we call as a suggestions or way forward. So if you go for, so always remember one thing, always if you go for, we do not know, because most of the cases we write introduction. If you go for abstract, if your abstract is not very informative, very catchy, then most of the cases you will find, so all the points that I have written, you just look at it. I am just giving one example. Suppose I am working a paper on the tribal livelihood. I want to write the abstract. So in that sense, so what you need to write? One line on introductions. Okay, so in that I will explain now all the detail of when you will go to this main body. So if you go for, so you write tribal are most vulnerable groups in the society. They faces lots of problem with respective to their socio-economic conditions. One or two lines. Then you write, the objective of my paper is to study the livelihood of tribal in Kandhamal district of Odisha. This is your objective. Then your methodology. Remember one thing, methodology when you say, so that means the study or the paper is based on both primary and secondary data. The primary data is collected from structured interview and focus group discussions from 300 sample sites. And the secondary data is collected from different sources, whatever the secondary sources. Okay, so now your methodology is over. Now, if you go for, so your result. So what is the result? Not yet, after 7 decades of planning, the socio-economic conditions, tribals, or the income or the livelihood is very, very vulnerable, and they are mostly depend upon forestry for their livelihood, and they are mostly huge migration, whatever findings, broad one to line, broad findings. Then your suggestions. So the papers suggest that there is a urgent need of action from different stakeholders for the development of the tribes. Okay, so you need to write, if the paper is given 100, most of the journal you find, so it is given 200 to 250. So this is something, I hope this is very, very essential that we call as a, if you go for, that is the abstract. Now, if you go for, I hope you go through the slide, what is written there. And remember one thing, always try to write the abstract. This is the thumb rule that we are speaking. After you complete your writing of your whole paper, okay, that is your choice, but most of this we suggest that you need to be very, very clear whenever you are writing the abstract. This is the point. What is the other point that you need to keep in mind? That remember one thing, whenever you are writing a abstract, please don't give any citations in that abstract. Remember one thing, if you are writing, most of the people who do not know, so we as a researcher, if you are writing extended abstract, then you can give citations. But if you are writing abstract, so there is no need of giving the citations. Okay, I hope So this abstract is very, very essential that will motivate whether a reader or a reviewer or a editor will read your paper or not. Because this is general perception I am speaking. Most of the cases, if you find, if abstract is very understanding, the research is very contemporary, very useful, and there is some new in that research, so automatically that motivate to read your whole paper. Otherwise, I will not read. Okay, so these are the points that you need to be very, very clear whenever you are writing your abstract. Okay, so other points that I have already explained, no need of writing these things. This one. Okay, so I hope I am audible. I don't know. So if you have, this is the limitations that I understand because I do not know whom I am speaking. So if you go for most of the cases you find, so remember one thing, we are now your title, your abstract and keywords. Always remember one thing, you read most of the journals, so it is very, very essential that you need to write certain keywords, maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe 6. Maximum, most of the journals you find 5 or 6. Okay, that keywords. Remember one thing, because most of the cases as a researcher, suppose I am working on caste discrimination. I am working on, if you go for tragedy of common. I am working on, if you go for discriminations. I am, so anything. So the keyword, remember one thing, you need to understand, the first point you need to keep in mind, that the keyword will, if you write 5 keywords, that means the keyword that you are writing, that in the whole paper, suppose I have written a keyword, I'm working on discriminations. Discrimination in higher level institutions, particularly PhD student or MA student in a university or in IIT. Okay, so I'm working on that. So if I write, so keyword, suppose I write discrimination. So when I say another keyword, hidden discrimination or anything I write. So that means, so these keywords, so if you go for whatever the keyword, 5 keyword, you should write that we will discuss in your detail all the keyword that you are writing in your paper, you are discussing that things. That you need to be very, very clear. Okay, so whenever you are writing a keyword, so that you need to be very clear. Okay, so this is the point that you need to keep. One important point that I need to share here, I do not know, I hope you know all these things, that the keyword that you are writing, that should not repeat in your title of your paper. Most of this, if you go for, we as a researcher, we always, whatever title of paper we have written, same the title, some words we are written in the keywords. My humble request to everyone, please try to avoid because you are repeating the same word. Okay, suppose if you are writing in the title discriminations in the higher level institution, please don't write keyword as a discrimination because you are repeating same thing. Are you getting the point? So in that sense, so please, the keyword that you are writing, the 5 keyword, first point, that the keyword that you are taking, that you think that you are all the keyword about the keyword you are discussing in the paper. First point. And the second point, that if you go for, you find that there should not be repeat of this keyword in your title. That you have to need your, most of the cases, if you go for any journal you are submitting, so you find that you need to write 5 to 6 keywords. Okay, so if you go for, because most of the cases, if you want to search your journal, so many things I will share after this, you just imagine. So your now first part is over. Your title, your, if you go for your abstract, your keywords. So this is the first part, which is very, very essential of your research paper. Okay, now, so if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll go to the main body. Any questions, please? No questions. Okay. Oh, no problem. So, okay, maybe please, I understand this is the constant. So, whenever you go for this, these things that we're talking about, now your main body, okay, whenever you are writing a research paper or anything, research report or anything, or books you are writing, so the first, if you go for your research articles, the first part that we call as the introductions. Remember one thing, so in most of the cases, if you go for, so this introductions, maybe you are writing maybe 1 or 2 pages. Okay, so remember one thing, so either you are writing 1 or 2 pages. Suppose I am working on tribes. So I need to provide some background of scheduled tribes, some theory with respective to scheduled tribes. So why this study is important? What is this, if you go for, what is your contribution to this? What is your research gap? What is the new information that you want to explore? Okay, so every dimensions. So if you go for, so always if you go for, whenever you are writing this introduction, this is very, very essential that you need to, why? Okay, some introduction, some background, some theoretical background, research gap, your review of literature. So all types of background with at least maybe 5 to 6 in test citation. I hope you know. So you need to provide basically. So you need to introduce this concept that why your paper is important, why this study is important, what is the objective of this study. Okay, so all types of informations. So what type of this study is going to explore? What is the implication of that? Everything with this 1 or 2 pages you need to provide as an introduction. So if you go for just look at it, I have given. Okay, so most of the cases. So if you go for your introduction, many journals nowadays, so they are combining your introduction in your article. Yeah, they combine your review of literature there itself. Many journals, your choice, they say that you make as a separate section on review of literature. That is your choice. But I always encourage that most of the journal in the contemporary times, so try to write in the introduction itself both national, both international, both local, starting from if you are in morely literature with the contemporary from different studies, from different dimensions, and last, what is your contribution? What is your research gap in that introduction if you are not making a review of literature as a separate subhead? Okay, so this is something I have already explained you. Just look at the point. What was I am studying? What leads to the study? What does literature say? What did I know about the topic before I did the study? What are the gaps? Why was the study important? What model I am testing? What approach I will take for the study? So these all different types, these things that we are talking about, we need to provide in the 1 page or 2 page, with at least I say minimum 7 to 8 citations in that. This is a very, very good understanding whenever you are writing the main body, the first part, your introduction. Most of the cases, so you need to be very, very clear that the 1 pages or 2 pages that you are writing, you need to be very, very clear. This is the, I think, so same thing I have given review of literature. I am not going for this. So always you try to combine. If you are making separate sections, in the last part of that, you clearly write, having gone through the literature, my study is different from the other study like this. And I try to study on this dimension. Okay, so this is your first part that we called as a introduction. One thing maybe I should say here, within these introductions. So in the last paragraph of the introduction, you would cover everything. So the study try to cover the broad objective. Okay, the study try to cover the socio-economic conditions of Kanda tribe in Odisha with sample size of this much. Whatever you write, now only objective. Then you after that you just write the if you are writing for EPW, if you are writing from some journals like Journal of Economics, so you write that okay, the first part is introduction, the second part is on review of literature, the third part is on research methods and data sources, and your fourth part is your result, and fifth part is discussion, and last part is conclusion. In the last paragraph of your introduction part, please clearly write that. Okay, now, so after this introductions, so if you go for now this that we call as a source of data, that we call as a material and methods. Technical terms are there used. Basically, so this you identify how you conduct the question why. Basically, I'm talking about the methodology. Okay, so if you go for the technical term, most of the journals they use that we call as a methods, materials and methods. Okay, so you need to basically, so you have objective, so means, so who is your respondent, what is the sampling procedure that you have used, where is your study located, why you have selected that study area, what is your sample size, how you collect basically that we call as the tools of data collection. You know, questionnaire or schedule or the methods that we talk about, your observations, your interview, your focus group discussions. Remember one thing, everything you need to, so including your equipment. My humble request to everyone, your methodology part should be very, very clear. Suppose you write in your case, you just read. So most of the cases, suppose you as a student, you are working on the secondary model. So you need to, if you are applying, if you are working on primary data, so you write, my study area is Kandhamal district of Odisha or Mayurbhanj district of Odisha. Why you have selected? Now I have selected Mayurbhanj district, so you need to provide justification, because so maybe on economics term you say they are more vulnerable, they are more poverty line, they are more unemployment, and they are of many indicators, whatever you clearly mention in methodology. Then so I have used probability stratified or probability sampling, or I have used purposive stratified random sampling. So you justify that. Then you explain that this study, so I have collected information through structured interview, structured or unstructured interview. How? The interview or focus group discussions or observations or case study, whatever you use, you clearly write that. Okay, so you just write that. Suppose you are the student of economics and we are not working on primary data, you are writing on the secondary data, so you clearly write that I have used the secondary data of periodic labor force survey of India. Okay, so I have used this round clearly, or I have used census data, or I have used National Family Health Survey data, unit level data. So you clearly mention. After that, you write, suppose you have used, if you go for multiple regressions. So I have used this model, or you have used logit model, or you have used probit model. So you write down this, suppose multiple regression model. This is my independent variable. This is my dependent variable. Their respective sign, whatever, everything. If you are working, so suppose you are using, so all types of this, if you are using, so whatever the statistical tool that you have used, or a statistical technique, or to test your hypothesis, whatever the test that you have used. Okay, so every information that you need to provide. So that means whether you are, if you are using primary or secondary, that you need to determine all, including your variables, your dependent variable, your independent variable, your statistical model that you have used, the software that you have used, everything you need to be very clear in the methodology part. Most of the cases, the method part is not clear. We have missed, and most of the paper is rejected. If you go for by the editor, the methodology is wrong. The sample selection is not clear. Okay, so that is the things that you needs to be clear. I am not going all the detail. So this now, your, if you go for your methodology part, I hope it is clear. Now, if you go for your introduction over, then you, if you go for, you can write in the second part review of literature, or you merge with your introduction. Then your, the third part that we call as the methodology, how, the question how. So you have explained everything. At least if you go for, if you are working on any model, econometrics model, so please try to write that model with detailed explanations. What are the variables that I have taken, their respective sign, every information that you need to provide. So I am not going. So if you have any questions, I hope you know. So I will try So that we call as your methodology part is over. Your introduction part is over. Your review literature part is over. Your methodology part means material data source. You need to write your study area. You need to write your sampling procedure. You need to write your sample size. If you need to write your source of data collections, you need to write how the data is analyzed, everything. So how the data is presented, every information that you need to write in the methodology part. Now, so if you go for the other dimension, this is very, very important. The two dimension that most of the journal that we call as a result and discussion. Remember one thing, most of the cases, if your, so I will explain what do you mean by many people combine together result and discussion. So if you go for, remember one thing, so I always encourage you should write the result, that technical that we call as a findings. Okay. And also you make as a separate section that we call as a discussion. I will explain these two terms, but you try to understand. This is very, very important. I hope you know everyone. So just I'm just taking in my words. You just look at it. So first part is your that we call as a result. When you are writing result, if you are doing a primary survey, so you clearly write down that demographic profile of this sample household. Clearly, this is must. Okay, so you always remember one thing. So you always, because result, when we are writing result, so I always encourage students, they should write in the past tense, because already you have data collected, you have already analyzed, and you are writing the result. So that you remember one thing, you suppose I am working on tribes. So I on livelihood. Okay. So first I write down result. If when you go for their main occupation, so they are how many percent? I write down first their demographic profile. Then I write down their occupation, their main occupation, that we call as the primary occupation, their secondary occupation, where they are actually they are working. Okay, so different types of activity they are doing. Okay, so maybe Manrega work, maybe wage labor, maybe agriculture, maybe shipping cultivation, maybe if you go for livestock, maybe you go for whatever the source. So when you write your result, remember one thing, you are whatever you findings from your field. Okay, suppose you just write down the points, no explanations. Remember one thing, I write down, I'm giving example, one example you hope. So always the result, okay, so maybe in the written in the test, maybe in table, maybe in figure, maybe in graph or anything. So you, the order that you needs to be very, very clear. And also, so you step by step. So your broad findings, you know, whatever broad findings you find, suppose I am working that the female literacy of Banda tribe is very, very low. So in that sense, so I say 20% of Banda tribe, the female literacy is less than 20%. My study finds, the result shows, the data analysis shows. So these all time, their income from forestry is 2,000 from the minor forest produce. The occupation, the income from the wage labor, they are getting 5,000. The income from the minor forest product is 4,000. Whatever your findings, broad findings, so you need to write in the findings. Remember one thing, I will explain discussion. What is the most of the people, there is a confusion between the result and a discussion. Okay, so you need to be very clear on that. Okay, I will explain detail, don't worry, with explanation. So when you go for result, that means your broad findings. Okay, so I say, so your income, your expenditure, your saving, your occupations, whatever activity, step by step by step. Okay, what type of, that may be in table, that may be in pie chart, that may be in graph, whatever that you want to present, that you just provide, or all the statistical analysis that you have provided, the logic model, probit model, multiple regressions. So what your broad findings from that model, you need to write in the result. Remember one thing, whenever, so you just, I hope no clarifications on that. So you can rightly, all this point I have already explained. That means you collect the data, you present the data in the form of table, in the form of figure, in the form of text, or anything. So you just provide that. So what is that broad findings on different dimensions with respect to your study? So that we call as a result. If you go for most of the cases, you just imagine that whenever you are writing a result, so many journals, so they combine result and discussion, and also you can make result and also discussion. Now remember one thing, so if you go for, so you write down your result. Now just imagine, this is very, very important. Most of the paper is rejected because we never write as a subheading that discussion. Most of the researchers, they don't have a clarity what do you mean by discussion. Please, if you have, please, my humble request, this is only, if you go for, this is very, very essential, that most of the cases, you just look at the slide, so read it if you possible, otherwise I will do that. I'm just explaining, I hope it is audible. You just look at it. When you say result, you say that the female literacy of Banda tribe is less than 20% as your descriptive statistics. But your discussions, that is basically you, that we call as a discussion. That means interpretations. Interpretation of what? Now, interpretation of the result. Okay, interpretations from the theory, interpretations with respect to relationship the variables, interpretations from whatever the existing literature is saying about that. Okay, so suppose I'm giving example. So most of the cases, so your discussion broadly remember one as the interpretations. That means before, suppose I say, I'm just giving one example, you just imagine. Your study says that Banda female literacy is less than 20%. Your data shows. Now you want to discuss. So in discussions, so you write the explanation, the interpretation. The literacy rate of female literacy is very low in among Banda women tribes. The dropout rate is very high. So the literature says that actually, so they are not, if you go for their cultural system is not related to the education system. They don't like their basically the course outline, the course structure, the time slot, everything is not related to that. So that demotivates so this Banda female women to part in the education system because of that low literacy. That is your explanation, interpretation. So with that, what the theory is saying? Suppose theory is telling that your previous study or literature is saying that poverty is the cause of the low female literacy in the tribal area. Yes, you can write that citation, but also you can say, no, that is there, but besides poverty, my understanding, my interpretation or the study explorations is that, so if you go for the cultural dimension is not taking into the education system. Because of that, so that is the missing of the present status female literacy is very low, or dropout is very high, or anything. You talk about migrations, why people are migrating, what are the factors that are responsible for that, the explanation, what is the literature saying about that. Okay, so what is, and what the new dimension, new idea, new thought, new theory, whether you accept that theory that is existing or rejecting it, that everything that you need to discuss. So in your discussion chapter, again I'm repeating. So always, whenever you are writing your discussions, maybe one paragraph, maybe two paragraphs, at least in your, whenever you are writing a paper, so you need to write. Okay, so if you go for just in discussion, in result, your broad findings, no explanation, no interpretation, no. So basically, so in discussions, you link to the literature, you link to the relationship would vary. So basically, what the literature is saying, what is the literature explanation there, how your study is different from that, whether the interpretation given by the other researcher, are you agree on that or not agree on that, like the example that I have given. So always remember one thing, so you need to provide in the discussion chapter. And also I say the conflicting many times, so some new idea, new result that is not exist in this literature, you find something new, and their discussion, their explanation, you need to provide in your all the things that you are talking about. Okay, so all, and also in the last part, many people, so in the discussion also, they provide that what is their future thought, future explanations, future work, or needs to be work, all the dimensions that you need to provide in case of your discussion. So broadly, so remember one thing, so your result and discussion part is your main body, main contribution, main output. So I say, whatever dimension you have taken into account, whatever parameter, whatever indicator, whatever variable that you have taken into account in your results, so that needs to be discussed with respect to the theory, the relationship, the existing, the researcher, previous work, everything, the relationship, and also the future interpretations. Everything that you need to be very, very clear in the case of your, that we call as a discussions. I hope I am clear on this. Please, you need to give more emphasis. Many people do not know what do you mean by your discussion. Okay, so I am not going again. I have already explained every point. Now, this is very, very essential. So most of the, if you go for, so that we call as a, in your conclusion, okay, so that most people that you need to write, that we call as, if you go for, so you just maybe in one paragraph or two paragraph, I always say you just write in one or two or three paragraphs. So broadly, remember one thing, so what is the cream of your broad findings, broad conclusions? Okay, you just summarize that, okay, from your result and discussion in one paragraph. Okay, and the next paragraph, you just provide, if you go for your, that we call as a, your suggestions, your if you go for your recommendations, your suggestions for future generations. Okay, so particularly with respect to your research paper, at least specific suggestions, most of the cases, if you go for the suggestion that we provide, so they are missing with respect to their general suggestion. My humble request to everyone that please your suggestions should be very, very specific, whatever your findings, whatever your objective, with respect to that, your suggestions you should write at least one paragraph. Okay, so that you need to write in case of your that we call as many people write way ahead, many people write suggestions, many people write future work. So any technical words avoiding that you just write down on that. And many, if you want, I always say, if you can write in the discussion chapter also, many people they write the limitations also. But if you can write, that is your choice. You can write on that. Okay, so that is the if you go for so broadly, whenever you are writing a research paper, so if you go for so all the points that I have explained, so you need to starting from your that we call as a not main body. So if you go for your part of that, your secondary part, your title, your abstract, your keyword, that is must. Then your main body, that we call as the introduction, that we call as a review of literature, that we call as a methods and materials, and then result, then last one discussion, the last is conclusion and suggestion. Okay, many people, so in conclusion you can write also suggestion, you can write also way ahead, but in that last line, last two paragraph or three paragraph, you summarize broad findings with your conclusion. Okay, so that is something whenever you are writing, that when this is the format, if you go for I am just if you go for, so also you need to write, and if you go for, so generally, so whenever you are writing, so whenever you are preparing, so these are the format, and the last is your reference. One thing I will say here, so now I hope just give me another 10 to 15 minutes, and then I will stop and you will ask me questions. So remember one thing, why most of the reference is play a significant role that for a research article. Most of the editor or most of the reviewer or most of the researcher, they miss many things in the reference. What is the major limitations I'm just identifying? We always do that. Two options. Most of the reference that is in the article, inside the article, whatever the citation given, that is not in the reference. The detail that we are referencing, detail reference. Suppose you write in the test Minaketan bracket 2020, you read the article in the text of your article, in your introduction, your main body, or any citation that you provided. But that in test citation, so that reference list, their name is not there. Most of the editor, most of the reviewer, first immediately they look at the what are the reference that they have given. Remember one thing, my humble request to everyone. Suppose I am working on tribes, I am working on migration, I am working on livelihood, I am working on these gig workers. So in that sense, so it is your duty that you need to provide the refer that article, that those who are established figures. Suppose if you go for working on discrimination, caste discrimination, Professor Sukhdev Thorat. If you are working on tribal, suppose I'm working on tribes, Professor Khaka. Okay, Professor Bina Srivastav. Just in your area, those who are established and they have published good articles in referred or whatever these journals that you have, that citation, that reference, that interest citation should be there. That is most criteria. If you are given this online free, the paid journals reference in that, so most of the cases, if you go for the editor or the reviewer, so they decided that because they have don't idea, so they will be rejected. So my humble request is that first, the reference should be the established figure, and whatever the citation you are giving in the in test, the main body, the details should be there in the reference, and vice versa. I have seen in reference 70 articles are there, detailed information, but in the test only 10 people citation. Oh, immediately I reject it because you don't have a clarity on that. Okay, so that is that point that is very, very essential that you need to taken into account for your reference. This is my humble request to everyone, those who are presenting. Okay, so this is the general idea that we write to write. Now, I hope you understand the structure of a research paper, structure of a manuscript that we need to follow. I hope everyone you know, nothing, I am not telling anything new, but just I am revising. Okay, I am just giving my words to that. I hope you understand the general idea. So if I summarize, you need to give more emphasis your methods, you need to give more emphasize your result and discussions. That is very, very essential for that. Now, after this, now if you go for, so most of the cases, if you go for, just look at it. If you go for, the slide is visible or not, please just look at it. The slide is visible. Okay, I no response. Fine. Am I audible? Or I am speaking? Am I audible? Yes or no?
Yes, sir, it is audible.
Audible, okay. This is okay. Just look at it. So if you go for, remember one thing, now you have written your manuscript. Okay. So now I will tell that we, as suppose as a editor or as a reviewer, so if you go for, suppose you write a research paper. So if you go for, so most of the cases, your first step, that editor always wants to publish good quality research that is interest to their readers. Suppose I always read whatever, as many economics journals are there, if you go for. So always, so remember one thing, so if you go for like gender studies, if you go for Journal of Dalit Studies, if you go for Journal of Economics, if you go for Journal of Rural Development, if you go for Journal of Labor Economics, okay, so there is a guideline, there is a scope of the journal. By if you go for Journal of Labor Economics, you want to produce, basically they try to give more emphasis with respect to the contemporary issue of labor concern. You talk about labor code, you talk about minimum wages, you talk about employment, you talk about unemployment, you talk about minimum wages, so many dimensions. So there is a scope of that journal. So the objective, so my humble request to that, you whenever you prepare your manuscript, so if you go for, so they technically there are different, so you identify some journals that I want to submit the Journal of Labor Economics or Labor and Development or Journal of Economics. So you just go to that, so just write down, so what is the central theme in the introduction part, just read it, what is the scope of the journal, on which area they are actually publishing. That is the first plan that you needs to be clear. Suppose suppose I am Journal of Labor Economics. So suppose if you go for any journal in economics, and suppose you are working on transgender, you are submitting on that. So that is not scope of that journal. So they will immediately reject that. So your first point is that you need to go to the first step after your manuscript is ready. Also, I say before that, if you want to publish the journals in the Journal of Labor Economics, you just go to the website in the journal. So you find there, you just look at it. If you go for, I do not know how many of you have gone through it, I hope everyone knows it. So first you just look at it. What is the area the journal is giving more emphasis? Whether it is labor, whether it is migration, whether it is unemployment, whether it is gender, whether it is caste, so everything that you just explore that scope of that. Then second step, always suppose you find suitable that okay, Journal of Labor Economics or Journal of Economics is suitable for that, development and change or world development. My journal is suitable for that. Okay, so then also you identify, so suppose Journal of Development, you are talking about Journal of World Development, So because it is not giving a micro custody, it's giving it as a whole world level, okay, national or international, that you duty you have to explore. Then the second step, it is you needs to be very clear that you always needs to read the journal's guideline. My humble request is that you need to read line by line, most of the cases, the journal guideline. Okay, so because most of the paper is rejected at the editorial level, not to the reviewer level. There are two stages of you whenever you are writing articles. So first is go to the editor level committee. They decide whether they will accept that article for the journal. If they accept, then only they will say for the review. Okay, so this is the things that you needs to be very, very clear. This is the first is your scope, then the guideline. Then remember one thing, the quality, the contemporary issue. Okay, suppose in the topic that you are working, so what is new? What is the significance in the contemporary time? What is the originality of that study? So that you needs to be very, very, that is clear. Then another is your, that we call as a language. This means spelling, the paragraph linkage, the language. So all these things that you needs to be clear. Now, most of the cases you find there is a concept that we call as a, most of the cases if you go for that we call as a ethics. If you go for, so most of the cases now, most of the journal, if you go for, remember one thing, so they now, it is mandatory, most of the established journals that you need to take, there is that we call as a ethical certificate. Most of the primary survey that you are doing, so there is the urgent need, most of the journal, remember one thing, many people do not know, many universities do not know, which is very, very essential, that we call as a ethical committee certificate. So that means if you are doing most of the journal, so now they are taking, you provide this ethical certificate, then only we will publish your journals. Okay, so in like in University JNU, so we have a committee, so that provide, that we call it the ethical committee. So if you are doing your PhD work or anything, research work, so that certificate is mandatory nowadays for your primary data. Secondary data, so there is no issue for that. But you can clearly write that the study is secondary data, I'm not doing this. Okay, so this is the another light 5 minute take. Then I will stop why most of the cases, if you go for that, uh, uh, why the paper is rejected, most of the cases, you just look at it. If I have already explained, so most at the editor level, paper is rejected because of, if you go for first dimension, you just imagine there is no, they are not following the guideline, and there is suppose many people they have written, suppose the word limit is 7,000, they are writing in 8,000, 10,000. So that is another dimension. Another dimension is your language, your English, whatever written. So many dimensions are there. So your methodology, your sampling, your data analysis. Okay, so there are different techniques. So that is on this basis, your paper is accepted or rejected. So I think many dimensions are there. I think I should stop here. If you have any questions, please let me ask. So I will try my best to answer. I should stop here now. Any questions? If you have any questions, anyone, please just you can ask me. I will try my best. I don't know whether I'm able to because the online mode, you people are sitting in different places. So taking online class is a really difficult one. I do not know whether you are able to hear me or not.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sir, you elaborately explained about writing an article. Thank you, sir. I
Thank
want
you.
a simple clarification, sir.
Yes.
Is there any link between introduction and conclusion?
Yes, that if you go for, remember one thing, always your introduction says most of the cases your objective is there. So always not directly you can link if you can, but you always try to conclusion link with your objective, hypothesis and research questions. That should be clearly in your conclusion part that you need to establish. You take the idea from the introduction, but my request is that always in conclusion, so you should link with respective to your research objective, research questions, research findings, or whatever with respect to that. That you need to write in your conclusion part. That I'm talking about the summary. Then in the second paragraph, you need to write the suggestions, policy implications, or whatever the specific suggestion that you want to provide. That you need to take into account.
Sir, can you share your PPT, sir?
Yes, I will do that. Don't worry. I will share this, ma'am. So no, don't worry for that. I will share the PPT. So you take because I am understand this. But remember one thing. I have many literature. I will share on that. The reference that I have shared. I will share the articles. You just use of that. This is not. I have taken from different sources. I have prepared that. But use in the right direction. That's all. No, I am not able to hear.
Sir, good afternoon.
Yes.
Sir, am I audible?
Tell me.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon, Monica. Myself, Anila, lecturer in economics, Government College of Commerce, Rajahmundry, Rajahmundry. On behalf of Commissioner of Higher Education, Andhra Pradesh, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Professor mechanical dialogue, genuine India urban section, developing a research paper. Sir, the government should have better perception to create ideology, informative, and well sounded, sir. So you have explained the markets in the research paper in a meticulous manner, and your explanation is wonderful, sir. We will definitely follow the sessions in our research paper, sir. Once again, we are thank you, sir, for your highly affectionate session and contribution to our academic community. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Malina.
Okay, so thank you. So if you are please, you just do one thing. I understand people are sitting in the different locations. So any help related to research work or anything, so please just you take my email ID. So maybe if you have any questions related to, you just write email. So I will try my best to answer that. And also I will share some materials on that or any related works with respect to economics or research methods or data analysis. Okay, so thanks once again for giving this opportunity. I do not know what extent I have able to clear your doubts, but see you in the physical modes in future. Thank you once again. See you. Bye. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
No. Can I leave now?
Yes, sir. You can. సార్ ఒకసారి ఎన్ఆర్సీ కోఆర్డినేటర్స్ ఒకసారి చెప్పండి ఎన్ఆర్సీస్ ఎవరెవరికి ఆడపిల్లలు ఉంది ఎవరికి ఆడపిల్లలు లేదో చెప్పండి అసలు అంటే రెండు పెట్టి వాయిస్ వినిపించలేదు రాజమండ్రి వినిపించట్లేదు రాజమండ్రి కొంచెం అడిగిపోతే
I see.
And not the number part. Then I will have to please respond. Am I available? Okay.
Arvind? ఒకసారి మాట్లాడించి
Hello. Chittur and Nancy. Am I audible? Please respond.
Sir, it's audible, sir. Nageshwara, sir, audible.
హలో క్లియర్గా ఉందా? హలో
వినపడుతుంది సార్.
క్లియర్గా ఉందా?
క్లియర్ గానే ఉంది సార్. ఒక సెంటెన్స్ మాట్లాడండి సార్, అర్థమవుతుంది. సార్ ఏదైనా లాంగ్ సెంటెన్స్ మాట్లాడండి.
హలో శామ్యూల్
సార్ వినపడుతుంది. ఓకే సార్.
వినిపిస్తున్నాను.
ఓకే సార్ వినపడుతుంది.
Yeah, good evening, Varun. I am Dr. Thiago, student economics in Nodal. I am from NRC. So I like the talk for the last time of today. I stand here to introduce principal person, Dr. Thiago. He is one of the classes of our now he is able to he is going to take the second half. Applications of differentiation and integration economics. Hello, am I asking you this? Please respond. Hello, start. So I can even ask presently working as a he got degree in MBA from Nodal University in mathematical economics. He also did statistics from same university and he did from Nodal University also. He has 4 years of teaching experience. లేకపోతే ఇక్కడ చెప్పండి.
వాయిస్ రావట్లేదు సార్.
చేసుకొచ్చి వచ్చాం అన్ని
Please raise your hand. Am I audible?
సార్ కంటిన్యూ మాట్లాడండి.
Audible.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Today, my topic is applications of differentiation and integration economics.
సార్
Actually
ఒక్క
గా
నిమిషం సార్
మనందరికీ తెలుసు
సార్ రాజమండ్రి ఎన్ఆర్సి సార్ ఒక్క నిమిషం
సింగిల్ మేజర్.
సార్ వినిపిస్తుందా? హలో
చెప్పండి సార్.
ఒక్క నిమిషం సార్. ఆల్ ఎన్ఆర్సీస్ ఒక్కసారి మీ దగ్గర ఆడియో సిస్టమ్స్ సరిగ్గా చూసుకోండి. ఏ ఎన్ఆర్సీలో కూడా ఆడియో సిస్టమ్స్ సరిగ్గా లేవని చెప్పి కంప్లైంట్ ఉంది. ఒక్కసారి మీ దగ్గర ఆడియో సిస్టమ్స్ టెక్నీషియన్స్ ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో టెక్నికల్ గా ఎవరైతే చూసుకుంటున్నారో ఆడియో సిస్టమ్ సరిగ్గా కనెక్ట్ చేస్తున్నదో చూడండి. ఎక్కడ కూడా ఏ ఎన్ఆర్సీ దగ్గర నుంచి కూడా ఆడియో బాగోలేదని చెప్పి కంప్లైంట్ ఉంది. నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్ కి ఈ విధమైనటువంటి కంప్లైంట్ రిపీట్ చేయకండి. ఒక్కసారి చెక్ చేసుకోండి దయచేసి. సార్ ప్లీజ్ క్యారీ ఆన్ సార్.
ఓకే, సింగిల్ మేజర్ ఎకనామిక్స్ వచ్చిన తర్వాత మనకి ఎస్పెషల్లీ మ్యాథ్స్ అనేది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఎందుకంటే సెకండ్ సెమిస్టర్ లో మ్యాథమెటికల్ మెథడ్స్ ఫర్ ఎకనామిక్స్ అనేది ఒక పేపర్ పెట్టడం జరిగింది. యాక్చువల్గా ఇది ఆల్రెడీ ఢిల్లీ యూనివర్సిటీలో ఆర్ట్స్ కాలేజ్ కూడా మేము బి ఎకనామిక్స్ స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఈ బి ఎకనామిక్స్ ఆనర్స్ స్టార్ట్ చేయడం జరిగింది. స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు కంపల్సరీగా ఎంట్రీ లెవెల్ ఏంటంటే 10+2 మ్యాథ్స్ అని పెట్టడం జరిగింది. కాబట్టి వాళ్ళకి ఇబ్బంది లేదు. ఇప్పుడు ఏంటంటే మనం కంపల్సరీగా మ్యాథ్స్ నేర్చుకోవాలి కాబట్టి ఈ పర్టికులర్ టాపిక్ నేను తీసుకోవడం జరిగింది. ఇందులో ఇన్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ క్లాస్ ఐ వుడ్ లైక్ టు cover basics of differentiation and integration and their applications. First of all, let us look at the introduction. In economics, we have so many applications of mathematics. When we talk about the demand function, when we talk about the supply function, we simply say demand depends on price. And demand depends on price when we keep other things remains constant. The other things means the other things which influence the demand, but you are kept other things constant, then we study only the applications of effect of price on demand. So this is a function. So now let us look at the what is a function. We have so many relations. Every relation may not be a function. A function has some particular features. Slide transition outla.
Sir, only main slide ఒకటి ఉంది sir. It's not changing.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Now,
Look at this. We have so many relations. Every relation may not be a function. What is a function? For example, the relation f from a set A to a set B is said to be a function if every element of set A has one and only one image in set B. For example, we have two sets, set A and set B. There is a relation. That relation is said to be function if and only if set A has one and only one image in set B. Then only we can call this relation as a function. Okay. If f is a function from A to B and A comma B belongs to f, then f of A is equal to B, where B is called the image of A under f and A is called the pre-image of B under f. I will explain. No problem. Let's do next two. Okay. Look at here. For example, examine each of the following relations given below. Look at here. The first one, relation are 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2. These are called Cartesian product. The first element in 1 is 2, 3, 4. The second element 1, 1, 2. In question 2, 2, 2, 2, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4.
Sir,
Third,
slide la
1,
example
2, 2,
10
3, 3, 4,
కనిపిస్తుంది
4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7.
Sir, sorry for the
So,
interruption.
Look at here. Since 2, 3, 4 are the elements of domain R having their unique images. Therefore, this relation R is a function. There
Sir,
is only
sorry to
unique
interrupt, sir.
images.
Nagesharao, sir.
Since the same first element 2 corresponds to two different images. Look at here. The second relation 2, 2, 2, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4. In second question, 2 has image 2 and 2 is also another image 4. So the second one is not a function. Look at here, third question.
Nageshwar sir.
Madam,
Screen. Full screen sir.
pardon?
Sir, screen పైన example 10 కనిపిస్తుంది, but your explanation is something different.
Madam, please wait, I will go through that. This is just introduction. Hello? Without explaining functions and other things, we cannot go to differentiation. Okay? Next, please. Oh, this is relation. When, look at here, 1 is a function, 2 is not a function, and 3 is a function. So, look at here, since 2, 3, 4 are the elements of domain R having their unique image, they must have the unique image. Whereas in second question, 2 has two different images. 2 is, the image is 2 and 2 is another image 4. So, the second question is not a function. Okay, like this, third is a function. Next, please. Okay, for example, we have to see whether the function is a continuous function or non-continuous function. Please go to next slide. For example, first we have to look at the limit. What is limit? A limit of a function is a number that a function reaches as the independent variable of the function reaches a given value. For example, if a function exists, limit or not, is shown by the left hand limit and right hand limit that must be equal to the some value, finite value. Then only that particular function has the limit. Therefore, when we say a function has limit, if and only if limit extends to a minus f of x exists, that is LHL, limit extends to a plus, that is RHL, that should be equal. LHL and RHL must be equal. Then that particular value at x is equal to a must be equal to LHL is equal to RHL is equal to, if when we want to find limit at a, that must be equal to the f of a. Then only that particular function has the limit. Okay, next. Actually, it requires more than 10 classes. I try to cover. Look at here. Okay. For example, when we are given to compute limit x tends to 2, 3x square plus 5x minus 9. Therefore, we can write this as limit x tends to 2, 3x square plus limit x tends to 5x minus limit x tends to 9. When we substitute x is equal to, we will get the limit minus 10. Therefore, the function limit x tends to 2, 3x square plus 5x minus 9 has limit is minus 7. Like this, when we find the limit x tends to 3, x into x plus 2 is 15. Like this, we have to find the limit. Before going to differentiation, we must know the what is limit, what is continuity. Otherwise, we cannot go for the differentiation. Differentiation depends on the limits. Okay. Next slide, please. This is the whether the function is continuous and whether the function is differentiable. Every differentiable function is continuous. The reverse may not be true. For example, look at this. F is differentiable at C. Therefore, by definition, we have limit x tends to C, f of x minus C by x minus C, f dash C. But for x is not equal to C, we have this particular modification. Therefore, limit x tends f of x minus C is equal to like this. Therefore, limit x tends f of x is equal to C. Therefore, it is a already I told you. The limit exists and that value must be equal to at that particular point. Therefore, limit x tends to C f of x is equal to f of C. That means this particular function is continuous. Okay. But the reverse is, that means when the function is continuous, that particular function may not be differentiable. Let us look at limit f of x is equal to delta x, sorry, modulus of x. F of x is equal to modulus of x. Therefore, when we find the LHL, left hand limit h tends to minus 0, 0 plus f of 0 plus h minus f of 0 by h. Because it is a modulus function, when negative value gives the minus h. Minus h is 1 is equal to minus 1. When limit h 0 plus, that means the modulus value becomes positive. H by h is 1. Therefore, LHL is not equal to RHL. That means the function is continuous but not differentiable. Differentiable means LHL and RHL must be equal. That should be equal to that particular value of the function. Therefore, a differential function is a continuous function. A continuous function may not be a differentiable function. Next. Now, look at this is very important differentiation. I have given the introduction. Look at here. Actually, what is the importance of differentiation? What is differentiation? We have I have already told you. Differentiation is very important in economics. It tells us the rate of change. It tells us the rate of change. For example, y depends on x. When x changes, what is the rate of change in y? Because we have so many functions. Already told you, demand function, supply function. When we have price changes, the law of demand tells us only when price changes, demand also changes in opposite direction. What is the exact change in y? Sorry, but in demand, there is no answer. In order to find that particular exact change, we calculate the elasticity of demand. That depends on the rate of change. Proportional change in demand by proportional change in price. Okay. In that case, we use the differentiation. Therefore, look at here, y is equal to function of x, where the dependent variable x changes from x1 to x2 and the corresponding changes in the dependent variable yb from y1 to y2. Here, y is a function of x, y is the dependent variable, and x is the independent variable. When independent variable changes from x1 to x2, automatically the dependent variable changes from y1 to y2. Therefore, what is the change? Change is nothing but the y1 minus y2 by x1 minus x2, or f of x1 minus f of x2 by x1 minus x2, that is nothing but the rate of change. This is nothing but the rate of change. Okay. Next slide, please. Next slide, next slide. So look at this. When x is x1, f of x1 is y1. When x is x2, f of x1 is y2. Therefore, what is the change? Rate of change? y1 minus y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. That is nothing but the rate of change. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we denote differentiation with the different notations. Some may denote dy or d of f of x, that is Euler's notation. Dy by dx is called Leibniz notation. F dash x is called Lagrange's notation. These are different notations. All are same. Some may denote differentiation with dy or d of f of x, that is the Euler's notation. Dy by dx is called the Leibniz notation, and f dash x is called the Lagrange's notation. Therefore, the meaning of differentiation is the process of determining derivative of a particular function at a particular point. Okay. Next slide, please. These are the some standard derivatives. These are the some standard derivatives. If y is equal to c, where c is a constant, then when we differentiate y with respect to x equal to 0, that means the differentiation of a particular constant is always 0. Y is equal to c, that means constant function. When we differentiate y with respect to x, it becomes 0. The function does not involve any x value. That's why change is 0. This is very important. Power function. Y is equal to x power n. The standard notation, the standard formula. If we differentiate this particular function with respect to x, dy by dx is n into x power n minus 1. N into x power n minus 1. For example, when we are given a particular function x cube, what is the differentiation? 3x square. X power n, that is in the form of x power n. Therefore, n into x power n minus 1, 3 into x to the power 3 minus 1, 3x square. Okay. Derivative logarithm functions. If y is equal to log x, then dy by dx is 1 by x. Power functions, sorry, exponential function. If y is equal to e power x, then dy by dx is equal to e power x. These are the some standard formulas, standard derivatives. If y is equal to a power x, then dy by dx is a power x into log EA, base EA. These are, we have to know all these standard derivatives. These are the trigonometric functions. These are the some trigonometric functions and their derivatives. Okay. Next slide. Okay. We have some rules. Additive rule, projective rule, quotient rule. The first one is, for example, y involves two functions. The function one is u, the second function is v. They may connected addition or subtraction. Y is equal to u plus or minus v. Then how can we find differentiation? Dy by dx is equal to du by dx plus or minus dv by dx. Okay. For example, look at here, y is x square plus x cube. Then dy by dx is d by dx of x square plus d by dx of x cube. Therefore, 2x plus 3x square. This is differentiation for particular function y is equal to x square plus x cube. Next slide, please. This is the product of two functions. When the function involves product of two functions, u and v. U is one particular function and v is another function. Therefore, what is differentiation of y with respect to x? U into dy by dx. That means we kept u as one side. Then we are finding the differentiation of the function v plus v into there is some correction. This is du, not y. Okay, u dash v plus uv dash. U into du by dx plus v into du by dx, not dy by dx. Okay, there is some correction is there. Like this, you have to find the differentiation for the production of two functions. Next slide. This is the quotient. Okay, when y is equal to u by uv, here u and v are functions of x and v is not equal to 0. V should not be equal to 0. When v is equal to 0, we cannot find differentiation. Therefore, when y is equal to u by v, dy by dx is equal to v into differentiation of u with respect to x minus, v into d by dx minus u into d by dx by v square. These are the standard formulas. Look at here, 1 plus x square by 1 minus x square. What is u here? 1 plus x square. What is v? 1 minus x square. Therefore, according to formula, what is v? 1 minus x square into differentiation of u. 1 plus x square differentiation is 2x. 1 minus x square 2x minus u into what is u? 1 plus x square into what differentiation of v? 1 minus x square means minus 2x by v square. V square means 1 minus x square whole square. Therefore, when you simplify this, you will get the 4x by 1 minus x square whole square. Okay. Next slide. Okay, look at here. If y is a function of u and u is a function of x, this is called the function of function rule. This is called the function of function rule. Y is function of u and u is function of x. Then look at here, dy by dx is equal to dy by du into du by dx. For example, if y is equal to u square plus 3u minus 2 and u is 2x to the power 4. According to that formula, first you have to differentiate y with respect to u. Therefore, what dy by du? 2u plus 3. Then, what is the differentiation of u with respect to x? 8x cubed. Therefore, according to formula, dy by dx is equal to dy by du into du by dx. Therefore, 2u plus 3 into 8x to the power of 8x cubed. Therefore, what is 2u plus 3? What is 2u? 2 into 2x to the power 4. Therefore, when you simplify this, 32x to the power of 7 plus 24x cubed. This is called the function of a function rule. Next slide. This is chain rule. Okay. This is the inverse function. Next slide, please. Next slide. అది పోదు, అది పైది. Okay. For example, we have some implicit functions. That means we don't know which one is the independent variable, which one is the dependent variable. That type of function is called the implicit function. In that case, for example, look at here. If ax square plus 2hxy plus by square 0 is equal to 0, find dx by dy and dy by dx. In this particular case, we don't know which one is the dependent variable. Then differentiate each term with respect to y. We have 2ax dx by dy, 2hy dx by dy. Like this, when we simplify this, we will get this. We are differentiating with respect to x. With x with respect to y, dx by dy. We are keeping y constant. Next slide. So, these are the notations we have already discussed. Look at here. Constant rule, power rule, logarithmic rule, exponential rule, addition and subtraction rule, product rule, and quotient rule. These are different rules we have discussed in the previous slides. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Next. Now, this is very important in our case because we have to find out when we want to find out maxima and minima, we must have the higher order derivatives. This is very simple. For example, given a function of y is f of x, its derivative with respect to x is dy by dx is called the first order derivative. If we differentiate the same function with respect to y, that is the second order derivative. That is nothing but the d square y by dx square. If we again differentiate this with respect to y, we will get the third order derivative like this. Please. Yeah, x. Higher order derivatives. Pardon? X. d square y by dx square, d cube y by dx cube. These are the higher order derivatives. Okay. Now look at this. Interpretation of derivatives various orders. When f dash x is greater than 0, means that the value of the function tends to increase. F dash x is less than 0 tends to decrease. Whereas with regard to the second derivative, means that the slope of the curve tends to increase or decrease. The first one is the value of the function increasing or decreasing, tells us the first order derivative. The second order derivative tells us the slope of the function, not the, slope of the curve. Okay. First one tells us the value of the function tends to increase or decrease. Second one is the slope of the curve tends to increase or decrease. Yes. Next slide. Look at here. These are the whether by differentiating we can say whether it is a concave function or convex function. Look at here. Dy by dx is greater than 0, then tends to 0, then dy by dx is less than 0. In figure 2, dy by dx is less than 0, then tends to dy by dx is equal to 0, then dy by dx is greater than 0. By looking this, we can say the function is concave or convex. This is self-explanatory, I think. Okay. The point at x is equal to a, that is called the point of inflection. Next slide, please. Actually, we have at least 10 or 15 classes. We have to explain all these things. These are the partial derivatives. Okay. Partial derivatives is different from the normal derivative. Here, when the function contains two independent variables, then if you want to know the effect of one variable keeping other variable constant, that is the partial derivatives. Okay. Here dy by dou y by dou x1. We represent partial differentiation with dou, the normal differentiation with d. Here we are keeping the other things constant. We are differentiating y with respect to x1. Like this, dou y by dou x2. We represent that with f2. Next slide. Look at here. F11 means we are differentiating y with respect to x1. Again, we are differentiating that y with respect to x1. That is dou square y by dou x1 square. That is F11. We are differentiating y with respect to x2. Again, we are differentiating that particular function with respect to x2. That is dou square y by dou x2 square. This is F12. What is F1? Dou y by dou x1. Then we are differentiating that particular function with respect to x2. That is F12 and so on. These are the partial differentiation notations. Next. Okay, this is differentiation, total differentiation. This is the formula for the, look at here, the total differentiation of y is the rate of change of y with respect to x1 multiplied by the change in x1 plus the rate of change of y with respect to x2 and multiplied by the change in x2. Therefore, dy is equal to dou y by dou x1 into dx1 plus dou y by dou x2 into dx2. This is the total differentiation. Okay, next. Okay, look at here. This is the particular function in macroeconomics. Already I told you price elasticity, income elasticity, and other elasticities. What is EP? Elasticity of price elasticity. Therefore, dq by dp into p by q. What is dq by dp? Q is the demand function. Therefore, dq by dp gives us the change in demand with respect to price into p by q. Therefore, this gives us the elasticity of demand with respect to price. Like this, we can find the income elasticity and cross elasticity also. Okay, in here, EP is the price elastic demand, P is the price, Q is the quantity demand, dQ by dP is the change in quantity demanded with respect to price. Next slide. This is the macroeconomic theory. Here, the consumption function C is equal to A plus M into Y minus T. Here, what is M? Propensity to consume, MPC. Marginal propensity to consume, MPC. MPC is nothing but the DC by dy. Change in consumption due to change in income. Okay. Next. This is growth theory. The dot notation. Dot is nothing but the differentiation. Dot y by y, SC minus dou. Here, y dot by y is the output growth rate. SC is saving rate, C is the marginal product of capital, and dou is the depreciation rate. Next. This is the Euler's theorem, product exhaust theorem. When we pay the factors according to their marginal productivity, the total output exhausted. That is nothing but the K into dou Q by dou K plus L into dou Q by dou L. What is dou Q by dou K? Yes. What is dou Q by dou L? Marginal productivity of labor. When we pay according to their marginal productivities, total output is exhausted. Okay, next please. Okay, look at this. Here, we are given the cost function. The total cost Cx in rupees associated with the production of X units and its item is given by Cx is equal to that particular function. We are asked to find out the what is marginal cost when 3 units are produced. Now, in order to find out the marginal cost, simply we use the differentiation. Marginal cost is the rate of change in cost. Therefore, dc by dx, when you differentiate that particular function, 0.005 3x square minus 0.02 2x plus 30. When x is equal to 3, what is MC? We have to substitute x is equal to 3. Then you will find the marginal cost. MC is equal to nearly rupees 30.12. When we are given the total cost, total revenue, by using the differentiation, we can find out the marginal cost, marginal revenue. When we are given the total utility, you can find out the marginal utility by using the differentiation. Is it clear? Next. Okay. This is total revenue function. Here again, we are using the differentiation. We are given the total revenue function. Rx is equal to 3x square plus 36x plus 5. Find the marginal revenue when x is equal to 5. Therefore, what is MR? dr by dx. dr by dx is 6x plus 36. When x is equal to 5, what is MR? 66. Therefore, the marginal revenue at x is equal to 5 is 66 rupees. Like this, we can find the marginal revenue, marginal cost, marginal utility by using differentiation from the totals. Next. This is the maximum and minima. Look at here. Maxima and minima are known as the extrema of a function. Extrema of a function. Maxima and minima are the maximum or the minimum value of a function within the given set of ranges. We have two types of maxima and minima: local maxima and minima and a global, like the absolute maxima and minima. Okay. Next slide, please. Look at here. The combination of maxima and minima extrema, in the image given below, we can see various peaks and valleys in the graph. At x is equal to a and x is equal to 0, we get the maximum values of the function. And x is equal to b and x is equal to c, we get the minimum values of the function. All the peaks are maxima and all values are the minima. Peaks are maxima and values are minima. తర్వాత చెప్తాం. Next. No problem. Next. Look at here. Local maxima and minima. Okay. I will explain all the things. No problem. Next slide. Absolute maxima and minimum, nothing but the global maxima and minimum. Absolute maxima and minimum, nothing but the global maxima and minimum. The highest point of a function within the entire domain. Okay, the difference between local and global is, madam, particular range. When we find out the minimum and maximum particular range, that is the local minimum and maximum. When we find out the maximum and minimum in a particular entire domain, that is the global maxima or minimum. Okay. If you find out the maxima and minimum in a range, that is local. When you find out the maximum but entire domain, that is the global maxima and minima. That is also called as the absolute maxima and minima. Okay, this is the absolute maxima and minimum. This is the entire function. So what is the global maxima? At x is equal to a, at x is equal to b, global minima. This is the graph of the entire function. In the previous slide, we showed only particular range. Okay. Any doubt up to here? Okay, next. Next slide, please. So this is very important. First, when we have to find out the maxima and minima, we have to find the critical point defined on a particular interval I. That is f dash is equal to c. First, we have to differentiate that particular function. Then we have to equate 0. Then we have to find the values of x. Look at here. If f dash x changes sign from positive to negative as x increases via point C, then fc gives the maximum value. Already showed you graphs. When f dash x changes sign from positive to negative as x increases via point C, then fc gives the maximum value. This is the function. When x increases, f dash decreases slowly, then reaches the maximum. Maximum. I have shown you in a graph concave. When x increases, dy by dx increases, then becomes got its maximum. Okay, that is the case. Changes sign from positive to negative. Slowly positive, then decreases. When it reaches the maximum, then decreases. Look at here, madam. When we take the x values on x-axis, when x increases, dy by dx increases, reaches 0, then slowly becomes negative. Yes, concave. Okay, this is the local minima. Point of inflection. That means if the sign of fx does not change as x increases via c, and the point c is neither the maximum or minimum, it is called the point of inflection. Okay, next. Actually, I have to explain all these things. I'm moving that in order to cover the slides. Look at here. First of all, in order to find out the max minima, we have to find the first order derivative. We must equate the first order derivative to 0. Then we have to find the values of x. Then we go for the second order derivative, d square y by dx square. Then we have to look at the change of this particular, the value, the sign of the second order derivative. F dash x is equal to 0 and f double dash, for example, the particular point C less than 0, that means you will get the maximum value. F dash x is equal to 0, f dash c is equal to 0, and f double dash c is greater than 0, then you will get the minimum value. Okay? If f double dash c is equal to 0 at that particular c value, we have no answer. In this particular, okay, this test fails, second order derivative test fails. Next slide. I will explain this particular. Look at here. This is the example. Y is equal to 2x cube plus 3x square plus 6. This is the example for the maximum and minimum to find out the. First, we have to differentiate this particular function. We are differentiating y with respect to x. Therefore, y dy by dx 6x square minus 6x. Then we have to equate this particular dy by dx is equal to 0. 6x square minus 6 is equal to 0. That means, what is the x value? X is 0 or 1. Okay. Look at there. Now, we have to look at here. We find the critical points. We got two critical points, 0 and 1. Now we have to look at whether it is maximum or minimum. In order to find out the maximum minimum, we go for the second order derivative. Now, what is the second order derivative? d by dx of dy by dx. That is d by dx of 6x square minus 6. 12x minus 6. Now, substitute the critical points 0 and 1 in this particular value. When we substitute 0, the value is minus 6, which is less than 0. That means the maximum occurs at x is equal to 0. When you substitute x is equal to 1, the value is positive, that is 6 greater than 0. That means the minimum value occurs at x is equal to 1. Like this, you have to find out the maximum and minimum. First, you have to find out the first order derivative. You have to equate that particular first order derivative 0. You have to find the critical points. Then you go for the second order derivative. Now substitute the critical points in the second order derivative. You will get the result, whether it is maximum or minimum. In some cases, we cannot find maximum minimum. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, this is integration. I want to cover all these things. Just bear with me. Integration is nothing but the antiderivative. Integration is nothing but the antiderivative. That means anti-differentiation. In order to find out the marginal from total, we use the differentiation. In order to find out total from marginal, we use the differentiation. In order to find out total from marginal, differentiation, marginal from total, integration. Okay, am I clear? When we are given the totals, we use the differentiation to find out the marginals. When we are given the marginal, in order to find out total, we use the integration. That's why we say anti-differentiation, anti-derivative. Integration is called as the anti-derivative. Okay. Therefore, look at here. Generally, we can write the function as follows: d by dx of capital Fx plus c is equal to fx. Then, if we integrate small fx with respect to dx, we get the capital Fx plus c. That's why integration is anti-derivative. Get here. D by dx of capital Fx plus c is equal to small fx. That is differentiation. Small fx is differentiation. Now, if we integrate that particular differentiation with respect to x, that means integral f of x dx is equal to capital Fx plus c. Again, we'll get this same function. Capital Fx plus c, differentiate the capital Fx plus c, we get the value small f. If we integrate the small fx with respect to x, you will get the original function capital Fx plus c. Okay. Next slide. Therefore, these are the derivatives, anti-derivatives. Look at here. D by dx of x power n plus 1 by n plus 1 is x power n. Therefore, what integrate x power n? X power n plus 1 by n plus 1 plus c. Okay. D by dx of x power n plus 1 by n plus 1 is equal to x power n. If we integrate x power n, we get n plus 1 by n plus 1. That is the original function. Okay, like this, you will get the derivative, anti-derivatives. Okay, next slide. Okay, look at here. Cos 2x. We look for a function whose derivative is cos 2x. When we, previous slide, please, previous slide. Previous slide. Okay, cos 2x. Here we have, okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. Next. Okay, now we have to, in order to find out integration, we have three methods. Number one, integration by substitution, integration by partial functions, integration by parts. These are the three methods in order to find out the integration. By looking, we cannot say what is the antiderivative of a particular function. Therefore, we have to use these three methods for finding the integration. The first one is integration by substitution, integration using partial fractions, integration by parts. Okay, next slide. Okay, look at here. The given integral f of x dx can be transformed into another form by changing the independent variable x to t by substituting x is equal to gt. Therefore, put x is equal to gt. Then, if you differentiate this, dx by dt is equal to g dash t. Okay? Are you clear? Substituting x is equal to gt. Now, when you differentiate x is equal to gt, what is the value? Dx by dt is equal to g dash t. Now, instead of dx, we substitute in the given function g dash into t. నేను ఇక్కడ explain చేస్తాను అంటే కుదరట్లేదు. Look at here, x is equal to gt. When you differentiate this function, dx by dt is equal to g dash t. G dash is nothing but the differentiation. Now, what is dx? G dash into t. Now, instead of dx, substitute in this particular function. Integral f x dx is equal to f of gt into g dash dt. Look at here. X is equal to gt. In the place of x, we substitute gt. Instead of dx, we substitute g dash t into dt. Okay, are you clear? Any doubt in this particular problem? Yes. In previous slide, please. Look at here. We are substituting x with g of t. Now we are differentiating this particular function with respect to t. Dx by dt is equal to g dash t. We don't know what is the value of g dash t. Yes. Then what is the value of dx? Dx is equal to g dash t into dt. Now come to the original function. F of what is x? In the substitution gt. What is dx? G dash t. Now we have to integrate this particular function. Okay? This change of variable formula is one of the important tools available to us in the name of integration by substitution. Next slide. Look at here. Sin mx. చెప్తా నెక్స్ట్ ఒకసారి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేసిన తర్వాత we know the derivative of mx is m. By substituting mx is equal to t, m dx is equal to dt. In the place of m dx, we substitute 1 by m dt. Instead of dx, we are writing 1 by m dt in the place of dx. Look at here. In the place of mx, we substitute t. What is dx? 1 by m dt. So 1 by m is constant. We take out of the integration 1 by m sin t dt. What is sin t? Cos t minus cos t. 1 by m minus 1 by m cos t plus c. Now we have to substitute was it t mx like this. Look at here. 2x sin x square plus 1. We have to take x square plus 1 as t. By simplifying this, we will get that particular function. Next slide. Next. Oh, this is the partial fraction. This is very important. We always, that means we always cannot find the particular substitution. Therefore, we have to take this particular partial fractions. Next slide. These are some important formulas. By looking these particular functions, we can write this particular fractions. If the given function is in the form of px plus q by x minus a, x minus b, a is not equal to b, then we can write this a by x minus a plus b by x minus b, like this. These are the rational functions, then we have to convert that into partial fractions. Next. look at this. This is the particular problem. Now, simply we convert this by a by x plus 1 plus b by x plus 2. Then we have to equate. 1 is equal to a into x plus 2 plus b into x plus 1. LCM. Then we have to find out the values of a and b. Then you have to substitute the values of a and b in the given function. So we are equating by LCM a into x plus 2, b into x plus 1. So numerators equal denominators. Therefore, what is the numerator? 1. 1 is equal to a into x plus 2 plus b into x plus 1. When we solve this, we will get this value. Then solving these two, we get a is equal to 1 and b is equal to minus 1. Then we have to substitute this particular. Therefore, 1 by x plus 1 into x plus 2 is equal to nothing but the 1 by x plus 1 plus minus 1 by x plus 2. Now we have to integrate easily. Okay. Next slide, please. Like this, we have to do all these things. Next. This is integration by parts. Integration by parts. If you and we are any two differential functions of a single variable x, then the product rule of differentiation we have. This is the differentiation rule. What is integration rule? Integration both sides you get uv is equal to integral u d by dx into dx plus v into this is. Therefore, expression can be written as integral fx into gx dx is equal to fx into integral gx dx minus integral of gx dx into f dash x dx. This is the integration by parts. We have to remember all these formulas. Okay. Next. Next slide. Okay. This is like this. This is the integration by. Look at here. Integral x cos x dx. X into integral cos x dx minus d by dx of x integral cos x dx. Like this, you can find out the integration. Next slide. This is again another function. Next. Next. Okay. This is definite integral. This is very useful. Definite integral. We have already discussed the indefinite integrals. This is definite integral. We have the applications of definite integrals in economics in order to find out consumer surplus and producer surplus. We use the definite integrals. Okay. Look at here. Integral a to b f of x dx is equal to f of x bound a to b, that is nothing but fb minus fa. This is the formula for the definite integral. Okay. Now, next slide. Here, look at here. When we are given the cost function, from total cost, we are finding the marginal cost. In total cost, we have two costs, two types of costs, variable cost and fixed cost. When we are differentiating the total cost function, what about this particular fixed cost? Fixed cost 0 becomes, that's why in integration, we are adding plus c. That is very important. The differentiation of x square plus 2 is 2x. The differentiation of x square is also 2x. The differentiation of x square plus 2 is 2x. The differentiation of x square is also 2x. What about c? That's why we are adding the particular arbitrary constant in the integration. That's why f of x plus c. when we are given the total cost function, we find the marginal cost. When we are given the marginal cost, in order to find out the total cost, we got particular total cost with respect to only variable cost. Whatever the total cost, that's why you are adding C. C is nothing but the constant. Okay. Next. Okay, look at this. Consumer surplus. This is very important. We are given the demand function P is equal to dQ. For quantities Q is less than or equal to Q, it is greater than the equivalent price P naught in the market. Consumer gain by buying at the equivalent price rather than the higher price. The net gain is called the consumer surplus. You all of you know about the consumer surplus. Now, by using integration, how can we calculate consumer surplus? Let us discuss here. Next slide. The concept of consumer surplus, all of you aware about it. Need not to explain consumer surplus. Look at here. This is the price the consumer is actually paying. This is the price he willing to pay. The difference between this one and this one is the consumer surplus. This is the price he actually pays. This is the price he is willing to pay. The difference between the area of the entire function minus this particular area gives the consumer surplus. Now, what is producer surplus? This is the supply function. He is willing to sell at this particular price, but he is getting this particular. Therefore, the difference between the entire area minus this one, the shared area is nothing but the producer's surplus. Now, by using the integration, how can we calculate consumer surplus and producer surplus? Okay, look at here. This is when we are given the demand function. Consumer surplus is nothing but the integral 0 to Q naught. dq is the demand function. We are differentiating dq. Sorry, we are finding the integration with respect to Q minus what is the area? P0, Q0, nothing but the is actually paid. This is the area he is willing to pay. This is the area he actually pays. Therefore, difference between these two areas is nothing but the consumer surplus. Therefore, similarly, previous slide once. Similarly, this is the entire area, but he is willing to pay here, but he is getting this much. Therefore, P naught Q naught minus this area is nothing but the producer's surplus. Next, look at here. Formula form. Yes. Oh, no. The next. Yes. Okay, look at here. Now you are clear. This is the entire area of the demand function. This is what he is actually paid. Therefore, difference between these two areas gives us the consumer surplus. This is what he actually get, what he is willing to sell. Therefore, this is the producer's surplus. Next. Now, let us take an example. This is the demand function. This is the supply function. Next slide. Now, in order to find out the equilibrium point, we equate in demand and supply functions. dq is equal to sq. Then that will give us the q square plus 25q minus 900. By solving this, we will get q naught is equal to 20. When we substitute q naught is equal to 20 in the demand function or supply function, you will get the equilibrium price P naught is equal to 500. When Q naught is equal to 20, D is equal to 1000 minus 25Q. 1000 minus 25 into 20 is 500. That's why P naught is 500. Now, the consumer surplus is given by 0 to Q naught, dq minus P naught into dq, 0 to 20. What is dq? 100 minus 25q minus what is P naught? 500. When we integrate this, you will get this 500q minus 25q square by 2. This is constant, becomes 0 from 0 to 20. Now, 500q into 20 minus 25 into 20 square by 2 minus 500 into 0, 25, that becomes the entire f of b is this one. F of a is nothing but the 0. That's why 500 into 20, 10,000 minus 25 into 20 square by 2, 5,000. When you substitute 0, this entire becomes 0. That's why 10,000 minus 5,000. This is the consumer surplus by using the integration. Okay. Next slide. Similarly, we find the producer surplus. Producer surplus is like this. Okay. When we are taking the supply function, 0 to Q naught, P naught minus SQ into DQ. We are doing the calculation. This is about the supply function. Sorry, producer surplus. Okay. With this, I am going to stop. If you have any doubt, I will explain. I will clarify. Actually, it will take at least 10 to 15 classes. I will try to cover this in the particular session. I am very sorry for the rush. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity. And also, any queries, please?
Other NRCs. Thank you. I express my sincere thanks to Dr. D. Nageswara garu. It is very important aspect of our economics subject because it is econometrics. Since he is an economics student, and almost in Andhra Pradesh, very less number of teachers are there in econometrics. Professor Jagadishwar sir and his student Surya Rao sir and some are there only. And Jagadishwar sir is also passed away. Very unfortunate. But now I express sincere thanks and we are very much thankful to you for this class. It is very important our lecturers of economics because a mathematical application of mathematics to the economics is very important and very tough and difficult. But anyway, we are very much satisfied, sir, with your excellent explanation. Integration and all these mathematical topics relating them with the economics. Thank you very much, sir, for your great effort, and we are very enlightened. Thank you on behalf of NRCs and all participants. I express my once again sincere thanks to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nageshwar sir.
For NRC coordinators అందరూ ఒక్కసారి వినండి.
Announcement for all the participants. Day 1 feedback has been circulated over Google Form. Please fill it up by end of today.
All NRC coordinators.
Tomorrow. Tomorrow there is no class. Day after tomorrow we'll be meeting here only in seminar hall. Hello. Please do bring your own laptops to have a hands-on experience on startup. Thank you.
Hello? Hello?
Hello? Am I audible? Hello? Hello?
Ramam sir.
హలో మేడం వినిపిస్తుందా? మేడం వినిపిస్తుంది. మా వాయిస్ వినిపిస్తుందా?
Just for checking. Next day మళ్ళీ మనకు వచ్చి ప్రిపరేషన్ ఉండాలి కదా అని అడుగుతున్నాను.
వినిపిస్తుంది మేడం, వినిపిస్తుంది.
ఓకే ఓకే థ్యాంక్ యూ.
ఓకే.
సార్
బయట